Hello, I am Tara Lilly. I am bringing to you What Am I Even Doing? And with me today is Jeff Wanner. I said that real southern.
Yeah, you got it right though.
Founder and CEO of PairPEO, which just got named a Fast 50 company in Charlotte, which is amazing. So I'd love to get into all that with you. So let's start with where you are today. PairPEO, it's a PO brokerage. A lot of people
Yeah,
probably don't know what that is.
we basically help companies buy the PEO industry, which obviously is a terrible way of defining what the hell I do. I'll unpack the PEO industry is basically an aggregator for small, medium-sized businesses for payroll, workers' comp benefits. In theory, you think about these things, they're like a captive buying power strategy for small businesses. So instead of a 20-person company going to market for all these things by themselves as a 20-person company, they're getting into a relationship that allows them to have several hundred thousand people involved in their buying power equation, which is what drives economics and makes this whole model work. So that's what we do. It's a boring industry, but ultimately every company has a means of paying their employees and hopefully a benefit package that attracts and retains top talent.
Nice. So, like for a small business who wants to offer benefits, it's probably really expensive to try to go do that on your own, right? If you want to go work with a specific healthcare provider, that's probably unrealistic for a lot of these businesses.
It can be. It's just such a muted audience, is what I found, is that, the groups that are, 10 employees or so, one, the traditional employee benefit brokerage shops, they don't want to work with small groups like this, nor do those small groups have the desire to have a whole bunch of manual processes and trying to
Mhm.
self-evaluate what makes sense for their population, picking potentially one plan for everybody in their company. Generally, it leads to some employees feeling underserved and or without optionality. So this industry allows them to have choice and allow employees to kind of pick what's most important to them. And it all automates through a payroll system. So if I'm an employer, I'm not absorbing a whole bunch of new responsibilities by putting this in place. I think every employer would love to do these things for their employees, but ultimately they become their own blocker for execution. And then once they implement, if they're doing it a traditional way, then managing renewals and things like that become very cumbersome and disabling to an entrepreneur that just has a much bigger pressing priorities in front of them.
Yeah, that makes sense because I worked at a couple of places, agency and a startup where like my paycheck came from Trinet and I think Paychecks. And like I
Yeah.
didn't at the time I was like I had no idea what that was. But we didn't have an HR team either, so it makes sense why those companies and the CEOs of those companies worked with a PEO, which as an employee, like it didn't matter to me. I just got my paycheck from work,
Yeah.
Trinet or whatever.
Right. And the end goal is hopefully that those people that lean into this industry are saving 40% on medical
Oh
premiums,
wow.
which is a big number. And that number keeps getting bigger every year with the open market increases being what they're being. So, what I've really enjoyed about this journey is that a client doesn't need to make sense for me right now. Honestly, like if I'm talking to a client for the first time, like I tell them, like I'm not meant to hit a home run on my first at bat with you. I'm meant to coach you through when the outcomes are much more favorable for you, and they might be here in Q1 of 2026, or they might be in Q4 of 2028.
Oh,
And the
okay.
reality is that they have to be frustrated enough with their current situation, cost soaring, and that 40% becomes a much more impactful number as their number keeps increasing by 10, 20, 30% every year.
Mhm.
So it allows me to kind of play a patient long game with clients and really coach them through the entry point for the industry. And just being mindful that not everybody nor anybody really wants to make a payroll transition. So everything that I'm doing to create these outcomes needs to be justified in the impact it's felt to their bottom line and to their employees' pockets.
Okay, so that's interesting because you obviously own PairPEO, so there is this you have this freedom of how you approach sales, right?
Right,
But before you started PairPEO, you were in corporate sales
right.
with PEOs, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I started my journey with a corporate PEO selling as a direct rep. And that's the way that this industry has traditionally been bought. And so I didn't know any different. I'm going out calling on local employers, trying to go create some value and ultimately hope that they don't run away when they see my price tag after 3 meetings with me as a mid 20 something year old. That's a lot of windshield time. It's a lot of wasted effort. And the better you get at selling this direct, the more you're aware that you're in the wrong room. And so after being inside of a corporate ecosystem that had a very finite bullseye, right? That where I was in the right room, where the pricing was going to make sense and the impact was going to be right was very specific. And so after doing that for a couple of years, I just started being honest with prospects out the get-go. I'm like, I think I'm the wrong guy for you. And found that, walking away from deals that didn't make sense for my employer created allies, it created trust. Ultimately, that was absorbed into my current ecosystem as I launched the company and was able to broaden the bullseye of impact area that I could create by not being beholden to one specific player in the space.
So that was a big reason why you started PairPEO, right? So have that to freedom, but also to be kind of the advocate and coach for
Yeah,
businesses, right?
it gets you out of the what call direct reps are challenged, and I was challenged with either selling things you didn't believe in or acknowledging that you're walking into dead ends all over and over again. Both those outcomes are completely damaging on your psyche. And any direct reps that work in this space are usually living in a less than 10% close rate. So that means like 90 plus percent of their time is wasted on things that don't make sense for their employer. And in this world, again, because I can play a much more patient process and let clients come to their own conclusions when the math is really swinging in their favor, my conversion rates can be much higher, but also I'm working with clients that are wanting to make these transitions, not ones that I'm convincing to make these transitions.
And you're building that off trust because you're not trying to sell them into something that's not a good
Yeah.
fit, right? When you made the decision to leave corporate, how like was there a straw that broke the camel's back? Was there something where you're like, I've got to do this, or it was something that you kind of always had in the back of your mind you wanted to do?
Um, Pre-spousal urgency. My fiance at the time, now wife, understood that I was a want to lay my own shingle guy, and she knew I was always going to want to be that. And every year that would have passed, our marriage into our firstborn, our secondborn, our thirdborn, all of that was going to create was a desire for status quo, ladder climbing, false enthusiasm, which is ultimately what you're doing when you climb these ladders is you have to keep continuously convincing yourself that you're climbing this ladder because you believe in the vision of the person that you're building their vision for. And so my wife was basically at a spot where she's like, look, you do this right now, got no real financial anxiety. We have no real responsibility. If you suck at this and this falls on its face, like you can go back into corporate America, you can go back into being a direct individual contributor for any company. And so that was kind of the aha where I'm just like, okay, after, inching towards a cliff edge for what felt like 18 months, just felt like it was a time to jump without the parachute and just see if I could land on my feet.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's awesome though that she was so supportive in the beginning. Like that's huge because I'm
Yeah.
sure that helped a lot to have somebody who's like, no, just do it. Just like let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do
so-
talk to a lot of like early stage, like what I call dreamer entrepreneurs, and they're still in the closing down the bar phase and like living that like transactional lifestyle. And it's amazing how much distraction that creates for actual like career mobility, even though they don't really seem to associate with each other. But once you go down a journey of being in a partnership with somebody for life, all of those distractions go away and you can really focus on things that are driving your future family forward, knowing that that was going to be a prominent focal point for me, and knowing that this transition to bet on myself was what enables me to be dad at 3:30 every day, or on the back end of this I'm going to go drive my kid to dance class. It's like those
yeah.
are the things that are you don't think about it when you're young and single, and you think that that's so far away from you. But once they rear their head, they become extremely desirable and things that you do not want to compromise your freedom for.
Yeah, and that's not, I mean, it's really difficult to do that in corporate, right? I mean,
Right.
there, it's a very different life. So, okay, when you started out the first year, how, like, what challenges did you face? Like, what would you say was the biggest challenge you faced when deciding to start out on your own? And you had like a non-compete too, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it was a loose. I left my previous employer in very good terms. At the end of the day, we still operate together. Like
Okay.
they are a partner inside of our ecosystem, and I left a boss behind that I adored. That we had a very good relationship, and so like my exit from Insperity, my previous employer, um, was I'd say the biggest challenge was just all of the stuff. Just the things that you kind of had to do to get to a spot where you could actually even capture a revenue stream. And to your to my previous point, every client in the space has to make a transition. So like your pathway to revenue is ambiguous at best and optimistically 6 months into the future. And that's just to create one conversion. So realistically, the biggest challenge was just the delayed gratification, is
Okay.
knowing that you're doing good things that are going to
Mhm.
ultimately turn into positive outcomes in the future. But in the present, the bank account's dwindling, the
Yeah.
anxiety is growing, and all the things that you need to be doing as an entrepreneur start to become more and more pronounced when you're actually in it. So I'd say just the stuff. At the end of the day, like anybody that takes a leap for themselves in this industry and can get over an 18-month hurdle
Mhm.
will be amazingly gratified in that decision. But the reality is that most people that are well off in this industry make a lot of money and they spend a lot of money. And so going to a $0 revenue stream for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months is massively compromising to their ability to actually make this leap.
But that goes back to like you were saying, like having a vision for the long game, right? And then patience. So, but one thing I know about you is you have a huge network and you're very well connected. I think you're just a community connector, anyways, amongst entrepreneurs and just in different industries. So, how much did you rely on your network when you started out?
I've relied on my network for 7 years of the business, frankly. Like I'd say that I'm a speak things into existence human. I think a lot of us are like this, where I thought this idea made a ton of sense 2 years into employment in corporate America. I talked about this business to anybody that would listen to me for 2 years before I ended up making the leap. So when it came into like just strong market validation and encouragement from my peers, like I had a lot of conviction I was going to be able to see this through in a positive way. And then on the back end of that, like what you don't realize is that all of those clients, all of those entrepreneurs, and the people you were trying to sell to as a sales rep, they start seeing you as a peer and they start seeing you as somebody that they want to encourage to grow and continue to find traction. So that was the biggest epiphany that I didn't really plan for,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a very pleasant surprise at how much your betting on yourself is a contagious thing that people want to see turn out to be something positive.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, a lot of that I'm sure goes back to you working your network and providing value back to your network and being personable and just showing up for them too, right? It's not just, oh, what's in it for me? Like, I need this stuff from you. It's
Right.
how can I help you? Which is like, since I've known you, that's how you've been with everybody that we talk to from, you know, business partners to clients. Like, it's a helpful position that you have.
Yeah, it's very collaborative. I found that there's no real sense in ever really creating enemies. And that's why I encourage my competition to join this industry. I think that what we do in this seat is marketably more scalable and impressionable and positive for the clients that engage in this industry. And I think that, part of this that's kind of gone in my favor is going back into corporate America whenever I was telling clients I didn't make sense for them.
Mm.
Like it's very rare I find that salespeople can kill their own pipeline
Mhm.
when it doesn't need to be pipeline. And so like that's something I'd say has been a very strong muscle that I've been able to develop over the years, is just realizing when I'm in the wrong room and being
Mm.
honest and saying I don't need to capture revenue on every conversation I have. That's ridiculous. And frankly, just going to create more bad relationships than good ones. And the model is really built on a residual revenue stream. So
Yeah.
if you're creating bad relationships in the front end, one, they're going to be off of your P&L within 12 months. And two, they're going to tell all their peers how shitty this experience was and
Mhm.
why they shouldn't work with you. So like my whole thought process with everything is if I'm doing right by the conversations I'm having today, it's creating my conversations in the future. And now that I'm 7 years into the business, like most of the stuff I'm working on is still being referred to me. It's just being referred by clients. It's being referred by partners that have kind of seen me be honest in rooms that did not create bad outcomes, or at least shining a light on why it could be a bad outcome. And if a client still wants to make a decision to do it, then that's completely up to them. But I'm very pronounced in where I find negative outcomes in our industry, and helping clients identify those before they say yes to something.
Which, like, that's important for PairPEO as a brand, but your personal brand, like, if you're being transparent like that and not trying to push stuff, that plays positively back onto who you are as a person. But you said, okay, so you said that you are encouraging your competition
Yeah,
to enter. Like, okay, wait a minute. So, like, tell me about that. Like, you don't have concerns about competition
no,
then.
no, absolutely not.
Okay, I
Our
want to
our
know. I want
industry.
to know more
Okay,
about
let
that.
me and they give you the why. Um, because the why can't just be philanthropic, even though some of it is. Our industry is still only capturing 15% market share on our addressable market.
Oh, wow. Okay.
1 5. It's been around for 40 years. The business model makes so much sense for 100% of the addressable market. Maybe not 100%, whatever. Call it 60, 65%. I feel that people that go to market advocating for clients will turn that market share on its head, where it ultimately ought to be and would have been if people weren't out just overselling this industry and trying to
Mm,
quota sell. So that's where my encouragement comes. It's that, and it is truly, I know how happy people will be in this seat.
mm,
Like I understand how unhappy people can be sitting in a seat with close rates that are where they're at. And even the ones they do close, they realize that they probably oversold it. There's things that compromise
mm,
your own psyche when you sit in
yeah.
the seat of somebody else. So I find that there will be much more positive momentum for everybody in this ecosystem if more people jump into the ecosystem.
What? Okay, that's incredible. I've not heard anybody say that before. Like, come on, join the good times over here. Be my competitor. It's all good. There's so
Yeah,
much opportunity.
but it's just more people representing clients again. Like if we can
Yeah.
all, and at the end of the day, like what we're doing for clients is we are supporting the small businesses. We are our small businesses.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's just an inherent agenda alignment when small businesses are helping small businesses. And frankly, the corporate engines that kind of drive all these outcomes, it's fine. Like they all serve a very positive outcome. It just has to be on the terms of the client. And when you sit in my seat, it can always be on the terms of the client.
Yeah. And and because you have good relationships with the PEOs and you have the best interest of the client in mind, like you're you're in a seat where you can be that advocate and help them navigate what would be best for them.
Right. And help them walk away when it makes no damn sense.
Yeah. That's and
Like
that's
they're,
huge. Like a
yeah,
lot of
like
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like that's the real power in the seat is just like it's a super binary decision. Like it's
Mhm.
objective. Like we're laying math against math. and it either says this makes fucking sense or it doesn't, and like it's not really up for debate outside of
Yeah.
like change management for making transitions and stuff. Like the actual numbers that are coming in and out of your organization are objectively either better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to tell people not to do something because it doesn't make sense right now, and understanding that our industry is extremely fickle and controlled by Wall Street pressures. If the quotes don't look good in Q1, they might look fantastic in Q3 or Q4. So you're postponing pipeline, but you're ultimately creating an outcome that is way better just by postponing pipeline by 6 months.
Yeah. And because you worked with businesses in different industries and probably different phases of their growth, like you can see some patterns of like even if it's not right for them right now, it's not detrimental. Like they're not going to lose employees. They're
Right.
going to still be able to find talent, and there is some light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Right, right. My often talk track with clients is like, why would you do this? Like, are people complaining about what you're currently doing? Are you having people leave you? Are you having blockers for acquiring new talent?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not having any of those things, then you probably don't even need to disrupt what you're doing. You're probably band-aiding together something that makes sense for right now, but right now might be for 2 more years.
Yeah.
So you don't need to overly pursue something that isn't immediately compromising your go-to-market and your existing company culture.
So speaking of employees, when did you get to a point where you were like, all right, I'm ready to bring on some help? And was that a decision that was hard to make, or you were already there, like you knew you needed some help?
Yeah, easy question, hard answer. Um, so I had had what I felt to be very successful first 3 years of the business. And for me, like that meant that, I was doing 4 to 5 times the production I was ever doing in a corporate seat. And I'd done that for 3 years. And ultimately, at a certain point in any PEO brokerage, you get to a spot where you've got just as many renewals to manage as you
Mm-hmm.
have new clients to convert. And that's when I started approaching Brock, who has been my number two in the company for almost 4 years now. And the amount of sales anxiety, which I don't get sales anxiety about anything really when it comes to actual revenue making, but to sell my wife on hiring my cousin uh, to be my number two in the company was one that I actually prepared for. As you know, I don't prepare for much because I generally am pretty agile in these conversations, but I hired a predictive index person. I hired a consultant to be able to
Okay.
vet whether me and Brock could
Wow.
possibly work together, even though we lived together for 10 years. And
Really?
we're
Okay.
very yin and yang. Like we have very complementary strengths and weaknesses. And so I remember having a lot of anxiety coming up to my wife to talk to her about hiring Brock, and she said, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And that was it. So basically, I hired Brock to help keep clients in a good spot, to be proactive in our outreach with them, to support them, to escalate any issues that they have, to help them make transitions when the math was saying it's time to make a jump. And that was the catalyst to the future growth of the company. The people that are a part of our team now that are really driving top of funnel activities that keep bringing more people into our ecosystem has allowed Brock to grow into more of an operations role within the organization. Because when he first came here, the operation was Jeff's inbox, and however the hell we made money and how we actually monitored stuff was absolutely Fred Flintstone level. And so now we've gotten to a spot where we have a great broom. I call Brock the broom of the company. He's often cleaning up every piece of mess that could be there and creating systems around not replicating that mess and letting it pile up year over year.
Brock the broom. That's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
So okay, and now you have HubSpot. He's got processes, he's got systems, so which I'm sure helped alleviate a lot of the stuff that you were having to do. So was has delegation been difficult in the beginning or even now, or are you at a place where you're like,
In the beginning, yeah, terribly, terribly. Well, Brock didn't know what the hell he was doing, and neither did I, frankly. I didn't have a good story of what I needed him to do
okay,
outside of something very specific around client success and retention. And so, like delegation for me, and me and Brock work in the same office space. It's a two bath condo. We work in the living room. We share about whatever 300 square foot of office space here. And for me to watch him stumble through shit for 2 hours that I could solve in 2 seconds was a struggle. But as Brock started getting Brock got really good at knowing what I needed before I knew to tell him what I needed, which is a wonderful place to be. And it's created delegation addiction, I'd say.
Mm.
Like everything with the company now, I feel like I hire who's, I hire people that do things better than me, and I hire people that are able to focus on things that I know that I will not be the best who to actually manage end to end. So it created a bit of an addiction to figuring out who could we bring in to handle things that I know I suck at. And we've just been doubling down on that for the last 3 years or so once Brock got to a traction state after his first year.
I mean, and that's huge. Like just being able to hire people that are smarter than you in the areas that you're not. Like I think a lot of times some entrepreneurs like the ego gets in the way of that, where
Hmm.
it's like they may assume or think they know certain things about different pieces of the business, and when someone comes like actually that's not working really well, that's like they have a difficulty letting go and letting someone else just help.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like I don't understand the ego associated with that because there are juicing and withering work that we all do. And if you're trying to own everything, that means inherently you're saying yes to a lot of things that wither you away and energy drain you. And so, as soon as I was able to flip that switch and understand the things that I was actively avoiding doing or procrastinating on, it's a pretty good idea that you need a delegation methodology for that. Otherwise, you'll just continue to let that be a burden to things that you actually are productive on and things that you are successful doing.
Okay, you said juicing and energy, which now I want to talk about. You're really big into fitness, and I want to learn like, is that something you've always been into, or is it something you started doing more when you started your own business? And how has that helped you balance your work and the mental toil that comes with, and I said that real southern too, mental toil that comes with owning and running a business?
Sure. No, it hasn't always been a thing for me. And I'd say that it really did not become a thing for me until I committed to the mornings, which
Okay.
was out of necessity. I talked to a lot of new to be dads, and I say to them all, I'm like, if you want to maintain anything active or anything physical, and that's at all important to you, as soon as that baby comes, that baby's going to dominate your why 100% of the time. And so I found that whenever my daughter was 2 years old, my wife was pregnant with our boy, who's about to turn 3 next month.
Oh.
Um, I had a Lifetime Fitness right on my drive home. My wife works 1 day a week babysitting our kids in the childcare spec, so membership's free. If we were paying full price, I'd probably use it more. But I would be driving home, and the Lifetime is 1 mile from the house, and I had a choice to take the right and go to Lifetime, or I had the choice to go home to see my baby girl. And baby girl won, at least 60% of the time. So I went from being I hope to be there 4 times a week to I was going like 1.5 times a week. And so I decided my buddy my buddy who holds like 7 titles within my general ecosystem. He's my banker. He's my fitness accountability buddy, investor. Like he does all. Like, we have tons of tentacles together. But he convinced me to start waking up at 5 in the morning and going into the gym. The gym is literally right across from the office, so like geographically, it made a lot of sense. I beat all the traffic in. That's a
Mm-hmm.
win. And then I get to work out. That's my second win of the day. And then I'm at my office by 7:30, and I'm not dealing with head fog. I'm not dealing with anything that's going to incapacitate my productivity for the day. And it also gave me a justification to be home when I want to get home, to do the daddy things that I generally get excited to do as my kids continue to celebrate me. I tell people all the time, if they were teenagers, I'd be the afternoon workout guy, and I'd be showing up at home at dinner time. But until they stop celebrating me, I will always have a strong desire to be home and get my
Oh,
4 hours of daddy time in.
oh, that's oh, celebrating you. That's so sweet. So the workout, like you, that was developing a routine and a habit then. And once
Yeah,
you got into that, that made it easier. But at the beginning, was that
terrible.
easy or
No,
waking up
it's
at 5
terrible.
a.m.?
No, it's terrible. Everybody I say it to says it's terrible. It's a dumb idea. No, it is. I am so much less productive, motivated, and everything else with it being absent. So, like, if my accountability partner goes on vacation and I decide not to go to the gym because I don't have somebody there making me feel bad about not going there, those days are massively underwhelming when it comes to
Yeah,
a productivity point. I'd say you really have to, it's a 60 day before you really start feeling like
yeah,
when you wake up, you're actually wanting to get out of bed.
yeah.
And then eventually it starts becoming a part of who you are. I'm almost 3 years into it now.
Oh, okay.
Where it's a 4.5 days a week type of thing. We're going to have intermittent issues and things that end up causing us to compromise a day here or there. But generally speaking, it's an everyday thing, and it's really what gets me started with my workday.
So, okay, you mentioned you have an accountability partner at the gym, and then your wife was a huge supporter in the beginning. So, talk to me about having like a strong support system. You have like a core of people around you. How valuable has that been for you in your business and just in life?
I I think it's the I think it's mandatory. I do think there's people out there their DNA is different than mine is, right? That there's complete self-starter, complete self-discipline. Um, and those people are awesome,
Mhm.
fantastic. And I just think that most of us are probably more in my bucket where having these pieces around you ends up bringing out a better version of you, and keeps you consistent, keeps you honest, and lets you not lie to yourself, which is very easy to do when you're self-evaluating your own self. So I find that I think that I'm extremely candid and transparent, like in my flaws, like I am objectively self-aware of the shit that I suck at. And I think that all of that leads to me doing things that really, again, where I'm appropriately placed, where I'm actually creating biggest impact, where
Mhm.
I have the biggest fulfillment. And all these types of people around you are just like checks and balances. Like Brock being here at the office is a wonderful thing for me because Brock knows whenever I'm doing things that I don't want to be doing,
Mhm.
or my wife understands when I'm coming home very stressed out about something inside of the job and I can be able to reset. So having these little checkpoints that are kind of built into my life now with the people that are going to be at these areas of the day are extremely impactful to keep me towards a mission that's ultimately to do a lot more.
Yeah, because I mean, at our core, we're humans. We have that social element, but being able to have a support system around you. And like you even mentioned when before you hired Brock, you brought in people to do certain analysis to see if you guys would work together for some like
This is all just sales testimonies that I could put back to my wife in the event that she gave me objections. And again, it was overkill. That's why I don't prepare for things usually. But in that case, I did overly prepare. But yes, I knew I wasn't the who to actually tell her the story that she wanted to hear.
yeah, I mean like but even then like there's seasons where you need certain people and there's a time where you need like a foundation of people for a very long time in your life.
Right.
And like for you to I know that that was a particular situation, but you did have a business coach for a while, right? Or
Yep.
I don't know if you guys still do, but
I've done business coaches throughout, and again, like I find that they have served such an important piece of our overall story. Obviously it's difficult to let people go when you feel like you have to put your chips and your energy into something else. But that doesn't mean that the, 2 years of relationships that got me to a spot where my frame of reference was, super finite and it kind of expanded from there. Like there's growth moments that have happened all throughout these cycles. And it doesn't mean I won't need more coaches. It doesn't mean I won't need more people in my life that will continue to push me in an upward direction. And what I found is, I'm 36 for another 55 days or something like that. Um, what I've found is that I sought mentorship so much in my 20s and even my early 30s as I was kind of getting this business off the ground.
Hmm.
And what I've found is I get so much more out of being on the other side of the mentor seat.
Okay.
Um, I do think I have a lot to share, and I think that I'm very comfortable sharing it, especially with people that are going through big life changes, where they're starting their businesses, they're starting their families, they're doing all the things that I was doing 7, 8 years ago, which I feel like has been very rewarding to be able to pay back all of
Yeah.
the psychological debt I have for the people that built me up to a spot where I could be what I am today.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, to be able to be in a state where you feel like you have the energy to do that, but just also want to help people. Because I feel like sometimes it's like not just entrepreneurs, but as professionals, people want to gatekeep. Like they think that if they own this piece of information that they're competitive or that they have one up on somebody else. But you're like, hey, I'll tell you, I'll share it, right?
Right. And even if I don't win every time, it's okay. As long as I'm winning more than 10% of the time, I've still made a good validated decision to carve this path.
And that is a good quote. I'm going to pull that. So okay, before before PairPEO or when you started PairPEO, were you starting any other businesses? Did you invest in any other businesses, or that was that your sole focus?
Pair PEO is what I knew I was going to do when I grew up and was ready to make that leap. I had made some passive investments into stupid ventures. I was in a smoothie company here in Charlotte. I was still a W-2 in my corporate job,
Okay.
and I attribute a lot of this as kind of like to use a drug analogy, like it's a bit of a gateway drug where like you have this itch that you know you can't keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing forever and continue to fake enthusiasm and all that good stuff and consuming Kool-Aid that you have no desire to drink. So like part of it was just trying to test out this entrepreneurial itch and allow myself to believe that I could, pun intended, scratch it and be able to
Hmm.
see, okay, well, this is something I could do and see how this works out. Like a bit of a case study on my own gumption, if you
Okay.
will, without having the parachute completely disattached. So like I'd say like my investment in most of the things that I was doing, I was building up entrepreneurial communities, networking groups, stuff like that, because I wanted the community around me. I came from Ohio. I'd been here for like 4 years whenever I was in the position to try to start this company. So I knew that the more allies, the more friends, the more people that I had in my circle, the less lonely this leap was going to feel. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, the pandemic made it abundantly lonely when it came to just like the face-to-face stuff that really juiced me up and intrinsically motivated me and connecting good people and all the fun things that kind of come from that. But it was a paramount piece of my puzzle that I needed to have these who's around me, even though, we weren't going to create immediate impact together, but I started the company with a good friend that did all my taxes, a good friend that did all my legal, a good friend that did all my banking. Like a lot of my decisions, my who's were friends that were just helping me get to a spot where I had it off the ground, which is an amazing lift for the amount of decisions that an entrepreneur has to make to actually
Hmm.
start. There's so
Yeah,
many companies that don't start because they can't come up with an effing name,
that's
let,
true.
let alone all those other things.
That's true. Yeah, it's a decision overload. But so like the with the investment, like you mentioned, that was like your gateway drug, but that had to happen in order for you to then be able to be ready to take that next leap, right? Like if you didn't do that, do you think things would have been different for you?
It's probably just a delayed cliff,
Okay.
like everything else. I think it would have just caused more months, more quarters, more years to potentially
Okay.
go on before I made this jump. And every single person that makes this jump, 100% without fail, says that they would have wished they did it 2 years
Hmm.
earlier,
Yeah.
which is my call to action to everybody that's sitting there saying I should do this. Like it's and I honestly like someone like me that will literally welcome them into this and help them in any way that I can. And I think there's a lot of my mentality out there of the people that have launched their companies and understand that an abundance mindset in this space is the only way to operate given the market share of our industry. So there's a lot of people that want to support this step, this leap that people are currently not making.
Yeah, and that's a really good mindset to have. Like you're like speaking things into existence, and then just having the positivity of like there's an abundance, like that's, and then just wanting to like mentor people and help them. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's good karma. That I believe in
Yeah.
karma, and I think that comes
Well,
back
this
around.
industry is going to be like every other industry. Like 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of consolidations. There's going to be a lot of mergers. There's going to be a lot of one plus one equals fours in our
Mhm.
space. And like the more of those people and these mindsets that are in our ecosystem, the more available those strategic partnerships are going to be. So part of it is selfish. Like I want people betting on themselves because ultimately there's going to be companies that I'm going to want to be a part of and that they're going to want to
Yeah,
be a part of me. And if they don't exist right now, it's an impossibility. But,
right.
if in future state, if there's 100 times the competitors in the space, like there's going to be those types of partnerships that'll be readily available to make with the right people, with the right mindset that have similar enough visions to be able to execute better together.
Yeah, and be a part of something, yeah, bigger too.
Bigger, right? As you can
Um,
imagine, like our company is a Charlotte, North Carolina
yeah,
company, and it's been largely built on the brands of our people that are here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So like we have barely touched a ounce of the addressable market across the country, across the globe with how this industry is kind of globalizing. So like that's where I feel like anything other than an abundance mindset is kind of inappropriate for where the industry currently is.
yeah, because if you have that opportunity to be like other companies come together, then that's a force that's doing some positive things
Right. The
for
reach
the,
is getting wider and more
yeah,
consistent, more abundant.
that's awesome. I have a quick round of questions for you.
One
Are
word
you ready?
answers.
Pickleball or golf?
Oh, pickleball,
Sweet or savory?
savory,
One business tool you can't live without?
rock.
Rock the broom.
Hey, he's a tool, all right.
And if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Mm, like I get to pick any of them?
Any.
Oh, well, I'd probably prefer to fly.
You know what? That's what's up. That's why I like you. That's a legit one. I like that. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today. I This was great. There's so many good things I can't wait to pull from our conversation. And I'm going to put in the description where people can find you at PairPEO link
Cool.
and how to contact you on your LinkedIn. And you know, you would make a great mentor for so many business owners, and then people who are even if they're like 3 or 4 years. Like, are you open to them
Just thinking
reaching out?
about it. It's just like people that talk to me about selling my business one day. They always want to talk to you 3 or 4 years before you're ready to sell it. Like if I'm talking to the people who are 3 or 4 years away from starting their brokerage, like that's perfect. Like at the end of the day, we're planting a seed that
Yeah,
will manifest itself into to the leap that they're ultimately going to make.
planning that little PO brokerage baby.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, Jeff,
Well, thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. I appreciate it, and I will put all your information in the description. And thank you guys for listening.